Village. And I just want to welcome everyone for coming. I know, I wish we had done this a month ago. We tried, but that's late plans, and this is what it is. But it gave us all a touch of what we might need to think about, and the fact that maybe we're not as prepared as we think that we are. And Palisades Village has been working on all year, getting together a program in place so that we can help people make these plans. And those of you who are full members, you're gonna have people calling you, and we're putting together little grab-and-go bags and helping you develop an emergency plan. But can't do that until we get the big picture. And Kim McCall from DC Homeland Security has been wonderful with us. Grace is with her presence once again. She did one of these talks for us years ago, and it opens your eyes as to the potential issues that you didn't even think about. But if we think about them, we can have a kind of a and then we don't have to worry about them. Just in their place. So, thank you for coming. And I'll let her take it away.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you, Erica and Ann, for inviting DCHC to be a part of your emergency preparedness series. Please bear with me. I'm going to speak as loudly as I can so that everyone can hear me. I have visuals. Today's presentational slides, there are about 20 of them. They will be made available to you by way of Erica and Ann, okay? So it's all about emergency preparedness. My name is Kim McCall. I'm with the District of Columbia's Homeland Security Emergency Management Agency and the Office of External Affairs. I'm a community outreach specialist. I've been at DCHC since about 2003. I've been a part of most of the activations in the city, whether it's been for hurricanes, whether it's been for presidential inaugurations, whether it's been for the State of the Union addresses, whether it's been the barbecue battles, you name it. I've been a part of what the district is doing to prepare people, to respond, and also to show resiliency. I have a brief agenda today. We're scheduled to be here from 1 until 2 p.m., but I'm going to try to cut the presentation to 30 minutes so that if there are questions, then we can talk about the questions and answers together. I've already started with one question, and people that know me know that I like to engage audience and I like to get participation. So my question today for the group initially was, this is just for you to think about it right now. How long can you individually, you make a determination for yourself, how long can you go without electricity or power because of an incident? Just think about it. Don't answer it yet, but just think about that. I'm going to give you an overview of DCHC. Hopefully you know a little bit about us. Let me see your hand if you know a little bit about the district government's Homeland Security Emergency Management Agency. Do you know that every state in the United States of America has an emergency management group? If you don't, you should. Check out any state you want to. Go to any governor's homepage and find out who's managing the emergencies and disasters for that state. For Mayor Bowser and the District of Columbia is DCHC. Our director is Dr. Christopher Rodriguez. He was appointed by Mayor Bowser a few years back, and you should have seen him by now. He's managed emergencies from national state Nets games and championships to the January 6th event. He's been around, he's knowledgeable. Check out his bio. He's Chris Rodriguez at DCHC. I'm going to talk about the local threats that we know about, that we have to plan for, to respond to with your cooperation as a whole community. I'm going to get us all prepared with what I know, but as I mentioned to this young lady here, who I believe was the first person here, I'm not here to teach you anything. Most of you have more experience than I do in living, so what can I teach you? But we can certainly share, right? We can certainly build together. We can share information. We can share stories so that we're all resilient in DC. I'm going to talk about Ready DC, which is a campaign kicked off by Mayor Bowser in 2017 with Director Rodriguez and his senior leadership team. I will talk to you about how to get emergency alerts from the District of Columbia government, and I'll talk to you about training opportunities. Our mission is to lead the planning and coordination of Homeland Security and emergency management efforts, making sure that DC is prepared to prevent, protect against, respond to, mitigate, and recover from all threats and hazards. I love our mission because it keeps us engaged in a little bit of everything happening in the nation's capital. And that's why I'm so happy to be a public servant here in DC. A vision at DCHCMA is a safe and secure Washington, DC, prepared for all threats and hazards. Our agency director, again, is Director Rodriguez. Visit us on the web. Our website is hcma.dc.gov. hcma.dc.gov. Now, when we talk about why we need to prepare as a community, these are the threats and hazards that our emergency planners and emergency managers are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, or either preparing or gearing up to deal with. So there's that terrorism threat, we all know about that, especially since 9/11 and the attack on the country. We know that there are natural disasters happening more frequently with more impact across the United States, not only here in Washington, DC. We know that it's hurricane season right now, so always be prepared. I got a chuckle on that. But hurricanes can be very devastating, especially if you lose things, your property, you have damage, there's injuries, sometimes deaths. Mayor Bowser has activated heat emergencies in the district this summer. How you guys survive in the heat in DC? You doing okay? Some folks are. I like the thumbs up. But these are other type of natural disasters we say you should plan for. All of these disasters have some type of consequence, right? Whether it's loss of electricity, loss of infrastructure, loss of water, what have you. There are going to be certain challenges that we have to deal with in the aftermath of these disasters. How many of you were here for the earthquake in 2011? Yeah.
I was in the building.
In the building.
In this building.
In this building. We'll talk about it. We'll talk a little bit about it. Do you think we have another one? They could have another one. With no warning. At any time, I had one person say no, but it can happen again without warning, just as it did back then. And guess what your emergency managers are doing? We got a duck covering hole too. We got to send you alerts, but we're also under the threat sometimes. Let's also look at some of these urban issues. If you've lived in Washington, D.C., as long as I have, over 20 years now, you know that these urban issues are common things that the city officials, whether it's a transportation official, law enforcement, whoever, we have to deal with these urban issues sometimes. Crime, fires, flooding, utility failures, civil disturbances, demonstrations. How about that last one? You think we'll have a pandemic? You think we'll be affected by viruses? Did you think that before? Before COVID, we were really worried about it. And now we're a little bit worried, right? So here's a question. Why do we need to go through the trouble and the time and the energy and the money to prepare? FEMA has a wonderful publication that explains, and they've done a lot of research and analysis. That's what they do, right? FEMA is the main source on disaster management and preparedness in the nation. If you get this publication, it's available to you online. It's called FEMA. It's called Are You Ready? It's a FEMA resource called Are You Ready? An in-depth guide to citizen preparedness. Citizen preparedness. It was updated September 2020. Do you think citizens have a role to play, or are we all going to wait for the government to do everything? We have to move. You have to move. I love that answer. Who else has something to contribute on that? Are we going to wait, or are there things that we can do, individuals, citizens? We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But we want to prepare so that We are reducing stress and anxiety. We work better if we have less stress, less anxiety. We want to mitigate injury and or deaths. We want to maintain our social connection, don't we? In the middle of a disaster, you're all alone. What good is that doing you? Not much. We want to maintain our vibrancy and social connections in the community. We want to be able to help others. Once you get your disaster kit and your family plan, is that it? You're all tucked away. That's just it. No, we're part of a community here in Washington, D.C., right? We have so many neighborhoods that are connected. So if you can help another person, find the will to do so. If you can. If you can help others, please do so. The best way to help somebody else is to prepare to help them, right? You want to prepare to help them. And lastly, we want to promote personal and community resilience in Washington, D.C. Our focus today, based on the invitation we received at the district's Homeland Security EMA, was to focus on seniors, right? So we did this presentational slides, which we often do. We can customize our presentational slides for any group in the city, but not only the city, in the nation. So we're all about preparedness. So we can customize this to meet your needs. Here's some questions that I've asked you to think about in advance, and hopefully these questions spur you to actually take action. You know, a plan is great once it's written down. But don't you have to do other stuff with the plan? Do you just write the plan and that's it? No, right? So do you have an emergency plan if there's an emergency or disaster? Let me see, put your hands. When I'm asking this question, I'm asking you as an individual or just a responsible member of the community. Do you have a plan for yourself and your family? I got a couple of these. Yeah, I got a couple of these. So things you want to think about. How are you going to contact your family members and friends to help support you? Right? We want to do that before the disaster. We don't wait until the stuff is on us and say, hey, I need some help. We're going to prepare, right? As a community, as a household, as individuals. Do you have your disaster kits? Now, this one I love because I know personally, I've been talking about FEMA's messaging of having emergency supplies, right? Since Hurricane Katrina and even before. Let me see if you got a disaster kit. Anybody have one? Okay.
But I packed it in 2005 and it's in my basement, so I'm not sure how good the stuff is.
Wow. Talking about an experience kit. 2005. So we'll talk about those essential items. Hopefully, after today, ma'am, you will review what's in it. You will update the resources because you might need them one day. Okay? Don't wait. Let's do it today. How are you going to get your emergency alerts? Right now, how are you informed? When there's an active shooter downtown, when there's a hurricane bearing down on us, when we have flooded roads, how are you informed? Cell phone, I like that. Cell phone. Okay, now you're telling me your devices. What is what's the source of your information?
Alert, DC alert, yeah.
DC alert? I love that. I like that. Yeah, everybody got that. DC alert, awesome. Does anybody know or not know about Alert DC? If you don't know, we're going to talk briefly about how to register. You can do it at ready.dc.gov. That's your alert system that'll come personally to you, depending on how you register for it, whether it's going to be sent to your mobile device or your email address, by text, or what have you. All of this is at ready.dc.gov. That's the city government's one-stop shop. The federal government has ready.gov. Ready.gov. That's FEMA. Wonderful. Chock full of information. In DC, we have ready.dc.gov. And if I'm going a little bit too fast, guys, slow me down and we'll make sure. I just want to make sure we have the slides done by 1:30 and then we'll talk a little bit about preparedness. September is National Preparedness Month. FEMA's focus this year, ironically, is on older Americans. You know, and I just got this.
We do plan ahead in Palisades Village.
I love this about our community. I love that we are like trending. Like this is really hot. We're doing this today. I should be like on social media talking about this with my PIOs, but we are trending right now because we're talking and focusing on seniors. This is the guideline and message that FEMA has set for the nation starting in September. So we're on point. I always love, and this one director used to say, Kim, always early, never late. So if I'm early, You never want to be late, so we're not late for preparedness month, are we? It's August, we're 2 weeks away. Anyway, the District of Columbia also recognizes National Preparedness Month, as well as the jurisdictions around us, Maryland and Virginia. We will have outreach events. You can follow us on social media. Partnering agencies also have a role. Sometimes people think Homeland Security, EMA, we're just, this is the big stop, bus stops here. But guess what? We're great collaborators. We can't do much without police, right? Without fire, right? Without Dixie Health, right? Without the Department of Transportation, right? Without Public Works, right? So we all have a role to play, even the District Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking. You know why? They manage some of the financial preparedness. And there's older Americans, and I'm one of them, Erica. I'm one of the older Americans up here. We have to also be financially fit, physically fit, emotionally, spiritually, you name it, at this age. We're gonna bring it all together, right? That's what I'm hoping to do with you up to. There will be trainings and exercises. This is the time for the nation to come together. And in the district, we do that with our partners all over, you name it. So we'll be doing a bunch of outreach. Today, again, my focus is readiness, and to introduce to you, for those of you who have not experienced ready.dc.gov, it's a one-stop shop in the District of Columbia that houses all of your emergency preparedness information and resources. Regardless of the threat, remember that list of threats and hazards I talked about? Regardless of what's happening in the district, our public information officers have done a great job of putting information out so that you can protect yourself. If you go there today and you want to protect yourself against an active shooter, you can start protecting yourself against an active shooter. If you want to be aware of what happens when there's an IED going along in the community, you can figure out how to manage that situation. In most emergencies, not most, in all emergencies that are life-threatening, you got to do what? Who are you going to call? 911 for all emergencies, right? All life-threatening emergencies for police and fire, please call 911. Our readiness plan here in the district is to make sure we are in consistency with the national messaging about being ready. All right, so we didn't just invent this. DC didn't just come up with this. We're part of the national landscape when it comes to Homeland Security, whole community preparedness for everyone in our nation. So we got to be aware, we have to make a plan, build the kids, stay informed. Now, please, let me see all of your hands now, because you've heard this before, right? You've heard this messaging, because I hear people commercials by the ad council. You know, they talk preparedness too. You can hear the ad council do a wonderful job advertising some of the messaging. But have you not heard this before? Be aware, make a plan, build a kit, stay informed. Not from FEMA, not from DC. Oh my gosh.
All I've seen is ready, BC. Yes.
I like that. I'll take that. I love that.
I haven't heard about
The messaging, okay. Well, these 4 things: be aware, make a plan, build a kit, stay informed. These are the 4 things. The 4 things that FEMA has communicated to all of us, responders, to the public, to agency officials, that if we can concentrate as a nation of whole community preparedness, if we get people to do this in a community, wow, we'll be able to show resiliency. Kind of like they did in Boston, with the Boston Marathon attacks. That was a resilient community. When something happened, man, people went to work, they started controlling bleeding, they started saving people, making sure they could save their lives with controlling people. Using tourniquets, makeshift tourniquets. Anyway, this is what I want to focus on today, because this is what I need you to focus on so you are prepared at home, in the office, in the community, wherever you are, your preparedness should be with you, right? Your preparedness is not in a box that you store away and you just get it. How many years later?
2005.
2005. All right, so preparing for older adults. I like this because I'm getting older every day. I love it. In order to be prepared for any situation, you should plan ahead. And this is especially true for people with any health or mobility considerations, or even special diets. There are certain foods, even in a disaster, I don't even care if FEMA brings it, I'm not eating it because I have allergies. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So even if FEMA comes to save the day, they start giving us food, if I can't eat it, what am I to do? I have allergies, so right, so you have to take ownership of your own preparedness, right? We're gonna do that now. By evaluating our own needs, right, we're able to make plans, and emergency plans that will fit the needs that we have. Not only ourselves, but our loved ones as well. Plan now so that when the time comes, you are ready. Do you think that plan that you make for an emergency right now is gonna be perfect? No, I don't even think the plans we have are gonna be perfect. But we have to have a framework to operate, right? If something happens right now, in here, who's gonna call 911? I'm gonna call 911, depending on what's going on. I might call 911, but maybe I should be doing CPR. Maybe I should be doing chest compressions. Maybe I call 911. I'm yelling for somebody else to call. But I can take ownership. I can respond. And the only way I can do that, how? What's the key word? I mentioned it earlier. Huh? Prepared. Being prepared by training. Right? So no, absolutely, I would love to call 911, but maybe I'm better suited to do something else while someone else calls. So all of this is teamwork and collaboration when it comes to emergency. So in 2004, FEMA launched National Preparedness Month, which is annual preparedness outreach campaign. The campaign aims to educate and empower Americans during National Preparedness Month and throughout the year to prepare for and respond to all types of emergencies. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It sounds like it could be overwhelming, but if you start with yourself, right? Just start here. Then you can branch out and potentially need to help others. The 2023 theme for National Preparedness Month is preparing for older adults. The Ready Campaign's Preparedness Month campaign will focus on preparing adults for disaster, especially older adults in communities that are disproportionately impacted by the all-hazard incidents or events which continue to threaten the nation. So any disproportionately impacted community should be preparing now. If you see repeated things happening in your community, you want to organize, you want to create plans, you want to show resiliency, you want to work with local officials, do all of those things to make sure you are recovering from an incident. There are new web pages at ready.gov. That's again FEMA's website. Check them out for National Preparedness Month. Now, that's the FEMA National Preparedness Month campaign. I mentioned to you that in DC, Mayor Bowser kicks off the 2017 Ready DC campaign. Okay, so that's our focus. We talked a lot of high-level stuff about what FEMA wants across the nation, but our main objective is to make sure we're working locally within the communities to prepare. So we're preparing for older adults right here in Washington, D.C. And being prepared starts by knowing your risks and taking the appropriate actions. Taking action before, during, and after a disaster. You can also visit ready.gov, but I kind of highlighted this area. For local preparedness information, go to ready.dc.gov. That way you are consistent with what our public safety officials are asking us to do in terms of preparing, and you're also ready to get the message, whether it's shelter in place, whether it's evacuate. So emergency contacts, this is one of those things that I think is really critical that we underestimate. But when we talk about emergency plans, your own family and individual plan hopefully has your emergency contacts in there. Plans are written. A lot of people used to think, well, I got a plan that's in my head. I'm just going to do what's in my head. But now, emergencies and disasters continuously showing us that local communities are affected. You don't have a household that may be affected by one incident. You may have multiple households. You may have multiple residences that live in one building. So there's an opportunity for collaboration, but you have to share, right? So write down your emergency contacts and share them with your trusted relatives. And also use backup electronic versions. Do you do that? For example, you have your, yes, I love that, very nice. You have your handwritten documents, medical prescriptions, emergency contacts, doctor's information, all that stuff is written down. And then you can, did you type it up and email it, or it was already typed up? Yeah. You can email those documents out should you need to important people that you need to share your information with. Only you can determine who needs your information. I will have a caveat here. Don't share your social security number with anyone, ever. Okay? So make sure you have your important documents like your valid identification, your driver's license, passport, homeowner's insurance, next of kin. I think this is wills and trusts month, so be aware, getting your wills and your important stuff done before the crisis, if there is a crisis. And then always look for those opportunities to network with your own family or community members, should there be a need for transportation. Any questions so far? I'd like to take one moment of pause just to see if there are questions about the emergency contacts or plans that you create. Yes, sir.
I just have one comment.
Yes, please.
When I worked FEMA, those of us may remember, the government was giving out credit cards, visas and stuff to help displace families. Biggest challenge is that a lot of folks, especially parents of their children, didn't know their social security numbers. And that's what they were using to uniquely identify all the folks in that. I understand not writing it down and giving it, but you may not, you know, if it's an emergency, you may not think about what's my husband or spouse's social, you know, and it gets delayed.
That's true. So having those important documents, so having a hard copy, I think you still can get a social security card like you used to be able to, long time ago, I think they're not. But yeah, having those important documents, and I think your point was like, it will delay some of your services, or it could slow
Right,
down.
they couldn't verify
Without verification.
family, and especially when they were then they were switching and transferring funds to your bank. And no one knows their bank routing number, executive account, all the top of their head. And then folks that, you know, Katrina, we all know, they moved all over the nation. Jumping from hotels, homes, families, and it caused huge.
Yeah. That was a challenge to see the response.
So yeah.
I remember watching quite a bit on television. But the district did receive some folks from New Orleans in that area who were impacted. I think we had about over 2,000 people that were transplanted to the district. Thank you for your contribution. Any other questions about important documents? That was a good statement. He's reiterating that we do want to have our important documents. If you don't know your social security number, then you should perhaps have the card itself, right? So let's move on to the disaster kit. This is what we're talking about. FEMA suggests that we all should have a disaster kit in the home office and car. And I like to adjust that messaging just for a little bit because all of us are still not working. Some of you are retired, living a life of luxury and stuff like that. So I like to say in the home, right? In your home, you have a disaster kit. In the community. So if there are places you frequent, for example, your house of worship, or even this place like this, if you know you're in the community every day, then go ahead and have a small emergency kit there too. So it's not just home office and car, you know, it's where you are, you know, your house of worship, wherever you spend time is where you want to make sure during the day you have a little disaster kit with you. What's essential? Essential items include, for me, and we all have to make our own determination about what we need. Again, I have severe allergies to wheat. That's a killer for me. So I always make sure to have Benadryl, right? So some of you will make sure you have water, food, medications. Disasters are somewhat seasonal. So in the winter months, you're gonna have your extra scarves, your mittens, your gloves, your socks. In the summer, we don't need those, right? So we're gonna switch out and rotate out clothing. So in the summer and spring months, you have the appropriate clothing. Always have a flashlight with battery, operated flashlight and radio. You may not think it's important, but when it's completely dark outside, in your community, you know what it looks like, right? It's not that far. So always have extra lights so that you can see at night, especially if there's something going on emergency wise. Have extra batteries, radios. You're gonna have to be able to get information from the city officials. They're bound to be releasing information, the public safety officials, the police chief, the fire chief, the Homeland Security director. In a crisis, could be messaging out to the public. So you want to have a battery operated radio so that you get news and information. All right. I think we covered news and information earlier. As I asked, like, how do you get it? Now, my favorite is WTOP News, not to just have my favorite. What are some of your other sources of information in the district? And so I already mentioned Alert DC, and I appreciate that. Thank you. But what are some of your other sources of information? Guys? Any other sources?
On TV, alert on TV.
You alert TV, yeah.
The street sound.
Yes, absolutely. The emergency alert system will still work. That's an older system where they interrupt broadcasting on television and radio to announce notice about an incident. We can do that wirelessly now, so you'll get those on your mobile devices anyway. So if you're in the district, you might get messages pinged from the wireless emergency alert systems that we have in the district so that people can get alerts. The only thing I want to mention here, if you have backup devices or if you use something like this gentleman where you need batteries or power, always have backup chargers. Cash. Someone asked me, how much cash do I need? I can't make that determination for you on disaster preparedness, but you should look at your family situation and determine what's a reasonable amount of money for you. If it's just to buy a few things to get you over for a day or two, that's fine. But if you think a long term, that you have to like leave an area and go stay in a hotel, then that's a whole different type of situation.
Or I would think if there's a power failure of some kind where the charge, where your card card readers don't work or something like that. I hadn't thought of that, but how do you have to regress to a cash economy?
Yeah, that's the cash, right? Yeah, right. So backup cash, I mean, anything can happen in terms of our ATM systems, gasoline systems. We just don't want to take anything for granted. And again, this is all disaster preparedness. This is not going to be potentially your day-to-day type of situation, but it's to prepare you for example when there is a gasoline shortage or the grocery stores are not open. And we just need people to sustain themselves until we manage the emergency. But just think, about your own situation and make an assessment. All of this is just overarching guidance for you, but hopefully it's spurring you to think about something to make a difference in your own plan, so that when stuff is hit the fan, that you and your family will be okay, right? That's ideally what we want here. Let's do this real quick. I did want to mention in your disaster kit should be your family plan and emergency contacts, okay? So that's not separate from your kit. That's all part of what you should also have, as well as the medications, like your medical prescriptions. So if the district has to open up shelters and we're trying to make sure people get what they need, the health department, it's really nice if you really know exactly what it is you're taking from your doctor. And that way we can facilitate and get help. That's if the shelter is activated in the city. Ready.dc.gov, I would love it if you visit that website. I won't go through it now. I had it up at the beginning of the presentation. It's a really wonderful one-stop shop. You will learn about our agency director, his senior leadership team, Dr. Rodriguez, and they work with the mayor to kick off this Ready DC campaign for the district. There's preparedness information for every type of incident you can name. If you find something that we're not prepared for, shoot me an email to kim.mccall@dc.gov. Seriously. If there's something you think we've left off, our emergency planners need to know about it. So just shoot me an email, kim.mccall@dc.gov. Alert DC allows city officials to send mass notifications so that we can send text messages, emails, we can do reverse 911 phone calls, but you can register for those. There are going to be certain alerts that if you don't register, you'll get them anyway. Certain emergencies, that's the pandemic. Mayor Bowser briefed the public quite regularly during the pandemic, 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes daily, depending on what was happening. So as disasters and big things happen, you know, your city officials will come out and share information with the public about what we should be doing. You can also request community outreach support like we're doing today. We have a team of individuals at AT that go out and regularly attend events, regularly attend meetings. This is what we do. We're passionate about it. We love it. Let us go where you want us to be. Tell us where we should be to make sure we're handing out information. And let me do a quick plug for our outreach team. Mr. Mark Eustace, he's not here today. He's the person that actually facilitated and made sure we could coordinate today's presentation. Mark also prepared me with today's handouts. Everybody should have a ready DC folder. I will tell you, Mark is so overzealous that he loves his job. And we love working with Mark because he's gonna make sure you get the information you need. So what Mark has done is make sure to include flyers about texting 911. If you didn't know, now you know you can text 911 in the district. There's a flyer in there for that. If you want to sign up for Alert DC, please do so. You can receive your emergency alerts to your cell phone, email address, PDA, you name it. Also on our website, ready.dc.gov, we have information in various languages. Why? Because it's required by the law in DC. The Language Access Act says we have to have information and available in Amharic, Spanish, French, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Korea. Also on our website, you will get connected to other district agencies. Who's our lead agency for active shooters? Who's our lead agency for active shooters? It's very actually the police. And so if you want to request training, there's a community outreach request form at ready.dc.gov. This blue page that Mark put in there, this flyer has all of the emergency numbers for city officials in the District of Columbia. I think it's great. Again, Mayor Bowser has activated heat emergencies in the city for the last couple months. We've had several hot days, but there are some things you should be concerned about, right? You gotta stay hydrated. You gotta get shade. You gotta use sunscreen in some cases. You gotta know the difference between heat illness and heat stroke. When you need to dial 911. This is significant, and so this flyer helps you do that. Any concerns about heat right now from anybody? Everybody okay surviving the heat? Okay, you guys looking good. You guys looking good. Also, Mark put in here are one pagers. So we were publishing booklets and handouts previously. We got to a point where community members said, well, we just need simple messaging. And I don't know if I helped today with the simple messaging, but I'm trying to make sure you have all that we have available to help you prepare. There's a Ready DC campaign on personal preparedness. That's how this thing started. You know, we all have a responsibility in our households, in our homes, in our community to be prepared. When to shelter in place? When do you think you're shelter in place? You might have to shelter in place if an active shooter is out there right now. Well, I'm not going outside. Somebody's running around shooting, and I hear the police out there. I'm not going out there. I'll stay here and just lock myself down and wait till the police I can go, right? Shelter in place, stay put where you are until the crisis has passed. But there's a tip sheet here for that. Now, name one situation where you got evacuated. I got your question next. Name one situation where you're not going to shelter in place.
Right.
That's a good one. I like that. I'll take that as a good answer.
Fire.
Fire. That's my number one. Where you absolutely, if you're seeing smoke, seeing smoke, smelling smoke, seeing fire, you're not sheltering in place. You are leaving. It doesn't matter what the structure is. If it's a structure and it's engulfed with smoke and flames, you gotta go. You gotta get low and go. And the fire department has a wonderful outreach team too. Let me do a quick shout out for DC Fire EMS. They have a public education office. They will help you learn about evacuating, how you should do it, when you should do it, and how you should prepare your homes. I can tell you right now, they want you to have working smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detector.
And they will provide them.
And they
And
will
install
provide
them.
And install them. And you can ask for Miss Patricia Everett at DC Fire EMS. Just call 311 for outreach and education at DC Fire and EMS. I have a question on the pause.
What's your name?
My name
Okay, no, the name of the person fired.
is Miss Patricia Everett.
Everett.
Uh-huh.
Everett.
Yeah, the public education and outreach officers in the fire marshal's office. So you can ask for Simone Poston or Tricia Everett.
And I'd be glad to organize.
I would,
A meeting
I would
with them.
suggest you do that, Eric. And
We've done it in the past and
Yes.
it's just like we've done it with you.
That's absolutely.
It's time to
Time to
refresh.
Training never ends. Training never ends. Training never ends. So preparing for an active shooter, I talked briefly about that. They do work with us and conduct a training on how you should conduct yourself. If there's an active shooter, they do talk about the 3 steps you can take, run, how to fight. So look at this, check this information out. I got a chuckle when I mentioned hurricane seasons, but it's still hurricane season until November 30th. So do keep that in mind. All of this information my colleague Mark Eustace put together to make sure you all have information. And to me, it shows the depth and the breadth of what we have to deal with in emergency management. You know, it's not just 1 or 2 things. This is a multitude of threats and hazards that we have to kind of prepare our community for. I'm gonna pause right now and get this over together. Did everyone get a chance to get a copy of the program? All right, awesome. I am winding down. We're gonna make a last minute plea for questions shortly. We always talk about police and fire, health department, transportation, your homeland security officials. But this is this nice quiet agency working in district government, answering your call every day. 911 calls, 311 calls, ouc.dc.gov, ouc.dc.gov, great partner to me and our agency. We've incorporated this messaging. Crimes in progress are for 911. Medical emergencies are for 911. Fire, smoke, or smell of gas are 911 calls. All right? This is pretty easy. 311 are all other calls for city services or information. Noise complaints, vandalism, destruction of property, unoccupied vehicles, and related incidents. Okay? So what we're talking about is emergency. So if there's life threatening, you need police and fire. Please call 911. If you want to report suspicious activity, LPD has a phone number for that, 727-9099, 727-9099. That's going to be in your folder in that blue sheet of numbers. Telephone number ready to see.
I also want to give out a shout out to the Department of Aging and Community Living and Adult Protective Services have been really valuable to us in emergency situations. And they have a hotline 24/7 through 311.
You guys know about that already? Okay, can you, I'll say this one more time.
The Department of Aging and Community Living operates Adult Protective Services, which we think of one thing with Adult Protective Services. But when we had a snowstorm and we had members who were in their home with no heat, no electricity, and no snowplow, those folks were so helpful. And they have a hotline 24/7. And if you call 311, they'll put you through to the hotline. And they were able to communicate with PEPCO and help prioritize where PEPCO was paying attention and got the power on for those, because we had 3 people over 90 in a block that we couldn't get them out and we couldn't, it was.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Erica. So just that's perfect, because I think sometimes we underestimate some of these other services and call services that are open. But OUC is a 24-hour agency, just like 911, they can take your 311 call, 11 calls anytime. If you want a seamless number, we do have a 24-hour number also in the city. That number is 202-727-6161. 202-727-6161. But primarily, you want to use 301 and 911 for DC officials, and that way you're going to be routed to the correct agency or appropriate person. So in DC, also, you can text, okay? Call if you can, in an emergency or crisis. Call if you can. That's the #1 way to do it. If and text 911 if we see, text 911. These are the scenarios that people should use them. Text 911 is intended for use in these three cases. If a person is the victim of a crime and the perpetrator is still in the area. If the person is the victim of a crime and the perpetrator is still in the area. For someone who's deaf or hard of hearing or has a speech disability, they can use 911. They can text 911. Text 911 if a person is deaf, hard of hearing, or has a speech disability and needs to reach 911. Also, in a situation where a person has sustained an injury that keeps them from talking, so you can text. If you can't speak, then you can text to try to get some assistance using your phone. So I appreciate that they gave me that slide to make sure it's out here in public information. All right, so we do have that ability to text. Also, go to ouc.dc.gov. I'm mentioning this because they have what's called ouc.dc.gov, a smart profile, smart 911 profile. So if you have any challenges, physical or what have you, you can create a profile in the 911 system, and that alerts them of your issues, concerns, or cares about what's going on in your household. So I can register and say, Kim, I live on First Street in Northwest Washington, D.C. I have severe allergies to wheat, and it could cause life-threatening situations. So I will put that in my safety profile at ouc.dc.gov.
I never knew that.
ouc.dc.gov. The Smart 911 is the program. Smart 911. And they'd be happy to come out. I can work with you to get them out. So that's another resource that helps give the fire department a heads up about your household and your situation. So I'm winding down. Again, I'm Kim McCall. Thank you on behalf of Director Rodriguez and the District Homeland Security Emergency Management Agency for allowing us to be here to share our information and resources on how you can prepare and how you can help others prepare. First, visit us at ready.dc.gov, ready.dc.gov. Next month is FEMA's National Preparedness Month. Check them out at ready.gov, ready.gov for FEMA. There are other agencies in the city too that we want to promote, also DC Health, DISB, Department of Insurance, Securities, and Medicaid. They handle financial preparedness, so check out their website. Office of Energy and Environment. We talked a little bit about training. The Red Cross does a wonderful training program. First aid, CPR. Just because we are older adults doesn't mean that we can't be trained to do something in a crisis. Remember, I said I would do the compressions, but somebody else can go call 911. So we all can work together as a community when there's an incident, but we certainly have to be trained, don't we? So let's get trained up. We got weather information at weather.gov. The mayor's office on volunteerism is called Serve DC. They actually administer and deliver our hands-on training for community members who want to work disasters. Let me see if you're a CERT member. Anybody here is a CERT member? Awesome. You know about CERT too because you work with people. So that's another way to get people involved. This is a great resource we have in the room right now. It's awesome. I hate to put him on blast, but he can tell you the value of training, the value of knowing what you're going to do, just in case we got to do it, right? So opportunities for first aid, CPR, AED, opportunities to learn bleeding control. I mentioned Boston Marathon attack, using tourniquets to help save a life, should it be the Lord's will. Psychological impact of a disaster, learn that. Because how are we gonna know if we're ready to deal with something like this? Right in front of our faces, we gotta be prepared psychologically, mentally, emotionally, physically. Community emergency response team training at Serve DC. There's also volunteerism. There are online courses you can take today. I mentioned one earlier, active shooter training is something to take. The Emergency Management Institute. FEMA runs the Emergency Management Institute. They can train you across the nation for anything in the disaster world. And at DCHCMA, we have a training academy. Look us up. Look us up. hcma.dc.gov, hcma.dc.gov. You'll see about the courses we have to offer and how we're here to serve you. So thank you all for your time today. We'll love to get a question or two. And let's just get started. Let's get started right here.
I have two totally unrelated questions.
Yes.
We were talking about what people should have. Are you advocating that if someone has an advanced directive, they should carry it with them? For healthcare power of attorney, would that be in the repertoire of things you think people should have in their person?
I don't know, well, you have to have it in a safe place and you share it with somebody, so if you share. If you have it in your disaster kit, I don't think that's a bad place. I don't think a copy of it, I think it would be right.
Second question is
Yes, ma'am.
crazy, but, when I had Verizon for myself carrier, and then I dialed one line, it doesn't go through, and now I have T-Mobile, and it doesn't go through. So what's the alternative for a 7-digit number to call for?
Yeah, I think it's 727-1000, I'm gonna
That's
check
what I
that.
do.
202-727-1000, but give me one.
That's the old number, that's the original, right?
That's important.
Okay, I'm gonna verify that number for you. Yes, ma'am.
One thing is, you maybe carry with you the people who are your power of attorney for healthcare.
Yeah.
Rather than the document itself.
Right.
And I wanted to ask people's advice. I often store documents, or stuff like, my Kennedy, JFK membership cards or something. I take a photo and then I create an album that's called entertainment and I put it in there. It may be desirable to, unless someone says it's a security risk. I just took a picture of this, for example, and taking a picture of your IDs and of important, who to contact kind of information and putting it in an album on your phone. Ask a young person how to do that if that doesn't work, and give it a label that is, doesn't say ID and all important personal documents. Aunt Sally or something like that, and of course your phone is protected by your password, but that way, if you get separated from those documents, or if I feel more secure to know I can access them on my phone, because that's the thing I'll probably carry with me more than anything else.
I like that.
If that makes sense.
How do people get to like the phone?
Well, you have a password.
Yeah, if you're not able to tell them how to get your phone password, how is somebody else able to access it? Unless you tell somebody. That's.
I would tell my sons, they have access already to everything. In my case, also my financial advisor has stores all that stuff.
And I'll also say that if you have Face ID or fingerprint ID turned on, if you're unconscious, MTs can get it.
Oh, swell. But it's interesting, what those, in Lahaina, where they didn't put out the sound things, because that's only for tsunamis and so on. Anyhow, it's a lesson on, well, that's the public response, but still. Incidentally, I have a crank up phone, all this stuff I did in 2005, for some reason, there was a lot broadcasting about a biological warfare. This is after 9/11 and stuff. And that's why I created this stuff. And chemical warfare is kind of a scary thing. But that sort of thing, although who knows, there's many other things.
Yeah, so,
It is important every once in a while to try to get organized.
it is, it's like the spring forward, fall back, the seasonal, just checking stuff. That's all, it's just assurance that, when something happens, you will be okay at home with what you gather, all your emergency contacts, all your important documents are in a place that you would need them, and they're accessible, and then we just come back after the thing is over, we just
Yeah, it's
come back.
living in DC, I was scared on January 6th, Frankie. I don't know,
Yes.
Question, some of the material maybe touches on this, but, imagine DC has an opinion about how many days worth of supply of provision somebody should have, given all the different scenarios that we all come up with.
We're pretty much with the federal standard, which is like that 3-day supply of the award, but I always kind of issue that caveat when I'm talking to people to say, well, it took longer than that in New Orleans. So, we're in the nation's capital. So I like at minimum 3 days. If I get community members to do 3 days, I think that would be fine.
I mean, no power is one thing, but you start trying to have enough water for, a week for multiple people, it starts to become a logistical struggle, right?
That's right. I like starting with the 3-day supply, and then if you can branch out further than that, fine. But in any case, we need people to be able to take care of themselves for 3 days, just in case it's officials are dealing with that. And we need, of course, you need to be able to have the food, water, and medications for you now.
I'll throw out a couple other items that were mentioned. Everyone's has different opinions of their privacy, but it's up to you. But when we travel, we take a photo of our passports, especially our overseas trips, so passport. You know that. Then there used to be a big campaign to put something on your phone under ice in case of emergency. Family member or someone that a lot of hospitals and phone to see if they can find some contact or ice. Yeah, the newer phones, again, if you can find someone to help you with this, the newer phones have places to list your medication, list your emergency contacts, and potentially store some or documents that somebody could actually get to if we were disabled at the time. So there's some features in our technology that we carry around with us every day that a lot of people have used.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks.
Talked a lot about communication through the text today. What happens if everything goes dead?
Okay, I like that. I like that. Everything goes dead.
An example in how in my building,
Yes, ma'am.
no cable, no internet from what was it, Saturday to Thursday.
Okay.
So
No,
no communication.
so you,
Landlines do not exist anymore. Save your, if you have a landline, save it, it's a gold mine.
who does land? I never heard of this. Okay, so let's go to the communication issue. This is the one I like. I happen to work in logistics. And communications falls under our logistics section responsibility. And so when we have exercises, sometimes they'll say, throw out your devices now, figure out this problem. And you know what that does for us? It puts us back in the mindset of, okay, now, and I'm working with our team. Do we have enough? We have enough legal pads. We have enough legal pads for our officials. We have enough ink pens. We have enough pencils. We have enough maps. I need people who have maps. Our officials have to go to Maryland, Virginia, and the mountains, who knows where. Then how are we getting there? So this is where we get the chance to go back and use all these skills that we learned a long time ago. I was a Girl Scout, the life skills we learn as you grow and develop, right? So pens and paper still work. I think they still work. Just making sure, guys.
How do you use them?
Do print or write in cursive?
I gotta Google how to use that pen and paper. But to go back to resort to those old school, I don't want to even say old school, the previous ways of communicating. I'll say it that way. Previous ways of
I think it's
communicating.
not even old school.
It's just a way to
I believe
communicate.
it's something that can happen. And then what do you do?
Right, and so also, let's think about that. One thing we talked about, family members and friends, we're talking about this personal network. We're talking about people here. So when we have a network of people, we can communicate, we can get things done. It may not be as quick as uploading something, but it still means that we have young people in our community that can leverage messaging. They can go door to door, they can knock. The police department and fire department have walkie-talkies, they have PA systems that can communicate with the community, even if there's nothing going on. So that's what we have to worry about as emergency managers. Really will be, how are we communicating when there's no communications ability? In the community, you have to be ready to do this, young lady. Her notes from today. See how writing is still powerful, right? So there's a lot that you can still do. So don't get bent out of shape about the technology. That's why I say have those backup documents, have your medical prescriptions, photocopies, have the old way of doing things in terms of documentation so that we can access stuff quickly. And then when the power is back up or communication facilities, we're fine. But you know what? You survive. Without the internet and without cable, right? We're still here.
But
It's okay.
I do want to add.
Yes, please.
We forget So, we're so reliant on phones and cable and internet.
And let's do solar, can I just interject and
Yeah.
add solar power, any solar powered device you can buy in anywhere.
So it's,
Buy
right, so it's good to have a solar powered radio
Yes, sir.
or a solar charger,
Yes.
or just for the handbrake, or the handbrake radio.
That's right.
May I interrupt for a moment?
Yes.
If you take a name out of this basket,
Okay.
we have 3 battery operators.
Oh, there you go.
Perfect.
That was my lead in.
Perfect. Okay, Cat Stevens.
Yay.
And another one? Girl,
Oh, that's good.
okay, one more. Rob Timmons.
That's me, we have one, so I'll be doing the.
Okay.
next one.
That's nice.
Go ahead. Marie Giordano. There you are.
Thank you, everyone. I'm turning this program back over to Erica.
Oh,
Thank you.
I didn't mean to,
Yeah, I think we got all the questions addressed. I just want to thank you again for your time. There's one more.
I just have a couple of requests that I've done recently.
Yes.
One was to buy a metal file box, very small, about, as care back. And, you can use a combination lock or key and put important paper. And then I have, binders for 2 of my daughters that have paper copies of all the documents. And I can put an anecdote, when my grandson was about 5 and the Cub Scouts his favorite TV program was on Feathers, Doomsday or whatever it's called, and I used to tease him about. So then I found out the idea, okay, let's just do it. Okay. They call it bug out. We're going to bug out. We have 15 minutes to get the most important things. And he has a twin sister. They grabbed their backpacks and I grabbed one in the ball and went around my house. We got really great things except for one thing. Nobody got water. But we got peanut butter, flashlights. Anyway, so it was fun, but it really did bring us all to, made us think about what we would do.
I love that you were able to do it in 15 minutes. So anything else other than water? That you should gotten?
Peanut butter, canned food, flashlights, first aid kits, mask, and I had leftover from 9/11, one of those heavy duty that filters out. masks, so I grabbed that. And then the other step was we gathered and then we pulled out each thing. There was, 6 or 7 or so. And we had to explain why we did that and what was most important. So,
I think I'll do that. Okay, so how often do you do that?
well, we just did it once.
You just did it once.
Well,
You know, you're 5.
yes.
You all said, well, God bless you.
Thank you, Kim.